Good afternoon. Our Bible story for today is a little girl and a poor, frail lady. There was once a little girl who didn't get out of bed, one morning or the next or the next. In fact, she didn't get out of bed for a whole month. She was very sick and no one knew how to make her better. Jairus was her daddy and he loved her. One day he was sitting by her bed, holding her hand, wishing there was something he could. I know, he said. He jumped to his feet, put on his coat, kissed his daughter, ran down the steps, past the servants, out of the house, through the gates, along the road, into the town, up the steps, and into the temple. He fought his way through all the people until at last he found who he was looking for. Who do you think he's looking for? Jesus, he said, falling at Jesus' feet. My daughter, he pleaded, please. But he didn't need to beg, because before he'd finished speaking, Jesus reached out his hand and helped him up. I will come at once, Jesus said. Jairus' eyes filled with tears. Jesus was coming. It would be all right. In those days, of course, they didn't have an ambulance, so they had to go by foot. Jesus' helpers knew that he would heal the sick girl, but they must hurry. If Jesus didn't get there soon, it would be too late. But everyone was in the way, hustling and bustling, jostling and pressing, pushing and shoving, squishing and squashing. The disciples ran ahead, forcing back the crowd. Suddenly, Jesus stopped. His friends looked back. What was he doing? Who touched me? Jesus asked, because he felt the power go out of him. Me, said a frail lady, looking down at the ground, because she was ashamed. The poor lady had been sick for 12 years, and she had to get well. She knew if she only touched Jesus' coat, she would be healed. So she touched his coat, and instantly she was well. We don't have time, Jesus' friends said. But Jesus always had time. He reached out his hands and gently lifted her head. He looked into her eyes and he smiled. You believed, he said, wiping a tear from her eye, and now you are well. Just then, Jairus' servants rushed up to Jairus. It's too late, he said breathlessly. Your daughter is dead. Jesus turned to Jairus and he said, it's not too late. Jesus said, trust me. At Jairus' house, everyone was crying, but Jesus said, I'm going to wake her up. Everyone laughed at him because they knew she was dead. Jesus walked into the little girl's bedroom, and there, lying in the corner in the shadows, was the still little figure. Jesus sat on the bed and took her pale hand. Honey, he said, it's time to get up. And he reached down into death and gently brought the little girl back to life. The little girl woke up, rubbed her eyes as if she just had a good night's sleep, and leapt out of bed. Jesus threw open the shutters, and sunlight flooded the dark room. Hungry? Jesus asked. She nodded. Jesus called to her family, bring this little girl some breakfast. Jesus helped and healed many people like this. He made blind people see. He made deaf people hear. He made lame people walk. Jesus was making the sad things come untrue. He was mending God's broken world. And mending means he was healing God's broken world. And we know that after Jesus dies and is resurrected, that he's going to come again and he is going to heal it completely and perfectly, and it will never be broken again. And that is the promise he gives to us. And we know that Jesus' promises are true, and we can trust that. Another thing that I thought of when we were reading the story was about the little girl who was forced to be in her bed. We learned about an artist earlier this year, Frida Kahlo. And do you all remember that she spent a lot of her lifetime in her bed because she was very sick. She was very sick as a child, and then she got in an accident and she had to be in her bed as an adult too. And it was very sad, but she she persevered, and she did a lot of magnificent, beautiful things, even in the midst of all of that. And so I was kind of thinking, wow, God can use all of these hard, really painful, sad situations and use them to really glorify Him and to get people to come to know Him more. And so that's super exciting. And that's how God works. He is so good and He cares so much for us. I'm going to post a video Saturday too of our next story, just because I can. And I want to be with you, and I want to continue to walk through our stories together. Millie sent me a picture of one of her illustrations of our story a couple of days ago, and I posted that on our Padlet. And I would love for you guys to continue to illustrate your Lent devotion books if you want. And you can send me pictures also of those. Or you can just listen to the stories, or you can just read them with your mommies and daddies, because I know a lot of you are already doing that. So I love you, and I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I'll stay in touch and talk to you soon.